Hello everyone, thank you so much for coming and spending your lunch break with me to learn a little bit about mindful eating. I'm sure it's a concept that you all have heard about before, but maybe you just want a little bit more insight on it. I'm Clare, I'm the dietitian for the Housing and Dining Department, and I'll talk a little bit about myself on the next slide. My contact information's here. Also, I have some business cards on the entrance if you guys wanted to grab one as well, or you can also just Google me. Okay, so just a little bit about me. I know these presentations always start with a little about me, so I've been a dietitian for about 6 years. This is my first time working at a university in higher ed. My background is in clinical nutrition. And I was hired in September, so I'm very new to RICE. And my day-to-day role is I support students who have allergies, dietary restrictions, any GI issues, body image struggles, and I also work with the club athletes. We have I'm sure you all have heard about the dietitian who works for athletics, so she handles, the athletes, but I work with some club athletes who are wanting, some more nutritional guidance. And then I love trying new foods, especially anything spicy. So if you have any recommendations, let me know. And then here's my cat and my dog. Okay, so just to kind of start off, I wanted you guys to think about a couple of questions. Don't need to write it down or anything fancy like that, but just think about how often do you eat meals on the go without sitting down? How often do you eat meals while you're distracted? TV, phone, working, driving, etc. How often do you assess your hunger cues before you grab a snack? And do you have any episodes of emotional eating? So just a few things to think about. Especially in the society and the culture that we live in, we're constantly eating on the go. Eating in our cars is something that's kind of been normalized in this country and in today's world. So, just kind of something to think about. So what is mindful eating? I'm sure you all have heard about it before. It's eating with intention. So thinking about what you're eating when you eat it. Thinking about if you're hungry. Am I hungry? Am I bored? Why is it that I'm actually eating right now? Addressing emotions. Thinking about what kind of emotions you're feeling whenever you do decide to eat. Are you feeling emotional? Are you feeling lonely, sad, depressed? Or are you eating because you actually have hunger? You want to prioritize consistent meals with no distractions. Sitting down, setting your fork down between bites, not looking at your phone or the TV. How often realistically do we all do that, right? The purpose of mindful eating is not to lose weight. Now, there may be a result of weight loss, but that's not the intention when you do it. Usually when we're eating mindlessly, we tend to overeat. So there may be a result of weight loss, but that's not the focus. And it's not a diet. It's process-oriented versus outcome-oriented. So you're not thinking of, am I going to lose weight? Am I going to look better? Am I going to have a better aesthetic? It's more of, how am I feeling right now when I'm eating? Right? Not how am I going to feel about my body or about myself, in a couple days, tomorrow, in a few hours. It's more about how I'm feeling right in this moment. And I heard that there was a yoga teacher in the crowd here, so I know that, that mindfulness can be applied to so many other things, especially eating. You're not concerned with restricting your intake. So you're not concerned with, am I eating too many calories? Am I eating, enough, for my muscle mass or things like that? It's more so how you feel in the moment. Now, being in tune with your body, those things, kind of go hand in hand, right? Your body will know what you need in that moment versus thinking about what the outcome's going to be. And there's no judgment for what you're eating in that moment. So some steps to consider. So if you all got a snack, maybe you practice this mindful eating exercise, if you guys got the trail mix at the front, before you eat a snack, and maybe you aren't hungry right now, so maybe you skip it, and that's practicing mindful eating. So before a snack, you ask yourself a couple of questions, right? Am I hungry? How hungry am I? Am I bored, stressed, angry, or lonely? And maybe if you decide, okay, I am gonna eat even though I am feeling sad, or I am gonna eat because I am bored, at least you know that, right? And you're in tune with yourself, right? So taking that time to think, even if it's just like a couple of seconds to just make that mental note. Okay, I'm bored, but like I'm still gonna snack on this, right? You might need or desire something else. So it may not be food that you're needing or desiring. It might be movement, rest, something to drink, a friendly phone call, or some sort of creative outlet. I used to work in a skilled nursing facility with the elderly, and had a lot of patients who a lot of times were just bored. And the meal and the food was what they were looking forward to throughout the day. There wasn't much else that they were looking forward to, but that was what gave them happiness, satisfaction, a sense of community, that sort of thing. And so I used to tell them, well, what other kinds of things do you do throughout the day? I would try and kind of pivot the conversation and talk about, at one veterans home I worked at, they had an outdoor garden. And so I worked with one of my patients on, okay, let's get outside and garden and do some other things throughout the day. That way it's not so much the conversation is about food and about restricting and you're eating too much, that kind of thing. It's more so what other things fulfill your life other than food, right? So just thinking about that too whenever you do decide to eat something. Maybe something else would satisfy you in that moment. Choosing your food intentionally. So, not just eating something that's in front of you or eating something that, you're just grabbing on the go, thinking about it, planning it. Sit down, put your phone away, turn the TV off. Like I mentioned earlier, use a plate, use utensils. I'm honestly guilty of just standing over the counter and eating over the sink if I'm in a hurry or something like that. But in those moments, that's a great opportunity to say no, next time, because we don't practice judgment. So next time I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna have a plate, I'm gonna have a fork, I'm gonna take my time. Right, because it happens, right? Don't beat yourself up. We eat on the go. It happens, but just being aware of, okay, I'm going to be more intentional next time. And then, just thinking about where your food came from on your plate. Did you make it yourself? Did you DoorDash it? Is it minimally processed? Was it sourced locally or none of the above? And that's fine. Just thinking about your food, thinking about where it came from, thinking about the people who made it happen, made it come to your plate, right? Did your family cook it for you? Was it a fun process making the food? Improving that relationship with food. Because a lot of us have very severed relationships with food. It's our enemy. Maybe we feel guilty after we eat it. Maybe we, eat it because we feel like we have to, because family members are saying, eat more, or whatever the case may be. So that relationship has been severed over time for a lot of people. Now, some of you that may not be the case, and that's fantastic. Keep doing whatever you're doing, right? But in the general span of things, and a lot of the clients that I work with, patients I work with, students that I work with, or have worked with, have pretty negative relationships with food. And it's our friend. Food is our friend. Is it food that will make you feel good, right? So do you think, and I know I said kind of paying attention to the moment, right? But this is before you eat, right? Will this food make me feel good? Will this food give me the energy that I desire? And if you're like, no, it's not, but I'm going to eat it anyway, that's fine too, right? Just as long as you're thinking about it. Is it food that you really want, that'll make you feel good? Eat slowly. Chew your food. Set down your utensil between bites, right? I grew up with a lot of foster kids in and out of my house. And, you know, I was always like afraid I wasn't going to be able to like get enough or get seconds or something like that. So keep going like this, but I have the habit of eating things really quickly because I think kind of from my childhood, you know, just being afraid of not being able to get a second helping if I wanted it, or my siblings would eat it or something along those lines. So, you know, being aware of, you know, why is it that I have to eat, or that I feel I need to eat fast, right? Or maybe you come from a background where you didn't have a lot of money or a lot of food in the house, and so you feel like whenever you do have food in front of you, you kind of have that restrictive mindset, so where if it's there, you want to eat it all, right? Or maybe you've been dieting for months and you're like, oh, this pizza's in front of me, like I'm never gonna get another pizza again, I'm gonna eat the whole thing, right? So it's just, you know, thinking about that whenever you think about your pace and how fast you're eating. Let's slow down, chew it, you know, set your fork down. It takes about 20 minutes for you to realize that you're full. So if you eat a meal in, you know, 10 or 8 or 5 minutes, you know, you're not going to really know, and you're just going to keep eating, right? So you want to monitor your hunger cues throughout. So, you know, if you, you know, start to realize, okay, like, you know, I'm feeling satisfied, but maybe I could eat a little bit more. Typically you want to wait a little bit, maybe like 7 minutes or so. And I think I have that on the next slide. About 7 minutes or so, and then you'll start to realize like, okay, I am actually full. So if it's like you're starting to feel satisfied, but you know, you feel like maybe you could eat a little bit more, just take a pause, right? You don't want to continue to eat until you're like, you know, don't worry, I've done that plenty of times, but you know, that's just steps to consider. Be fully present in the experience. Goes back to putting your phone away, you know, turning the TV off, using utensils, using a plate, a napkin, you know, putting water in a cup, you know, just being more intentional about meal times. We've lost so much of that, you know, recently. I remember growing up, my mom, she used to always make us sit down and eat, you know, meals together at the table, right? And I was always like, oh, you know, I hated that as a kid. Like, I was just like, I just want to eat in my room, or I just want to, like, just eat really quick and go back to doing whatever I was doing. But now, you know, looking back, I realize, like, kind of the value of that and the importance of that, and I don't see that very often anymore. I think here at Rice, it's great with the residential college system. I see a lot of students sitting down, eating meals together, and I think that's fantastic. But yeah, it's interesting, you know, whenever you're a kid, you think, like, it's just stupid, but then you grow up and realize mom was actually right. So okay, so the hunger satiety scale, has anyone seen this before or heard about it before? Oh wow, cool. Okay, I'm teaching everyone something new. So the hunger satiety scale is something that I use especially with students who exhibit like binge, restrict, you know, disordered eating kind of behaviors, but also it's good for just, you know, general knowledge to have. I use it mentally a lot of times too whenever I'm eating. So, you know, obviously number one, you are completely like starving, like you haven't eaten like all day, and like you just could eat anything in front of you, and like, you know, you feel like you're like, you know, I've been in the desert for 40 days. Number 10 is like you're extremely stuffed, you're nauseous, you like are gonna throw up because you like ate way too much, right? So around number 5, when you're like starting to feel hungry, so like you have like all the increments in between, right? So around number 5, when you're starting to feel hungry, you kind of want to start making a plan. Like, all right, so do I have a snack, or, you know, when am I going to eat lunch? You know, maybe look at your time and just kind of start making a plan about when you're going to eat, what you're going to eat, maybe who you're going to eat it with, that kind of thing. The goal is to eat like maybe when you're at 4, maybe when you're at 3. 3 is not the ideal, but 4, when you're like actually hungry, right? Is when you are sitting down and eating, not when you're going to the store, buying something, not when you're calling a friend saying, hey, you want to get lunch? I'm hungry right now. It's 4 is when you're actually sitting down, the fork is going in your mouth, right? Because you're using a fork and you're not eating over the sink, right? So eating at these times will result in more thoughtful meal choices. So if you're making a plan more when you're starting to feel hungry, you'll be more intentional about the food that you decide to eat versus I'm just gonna eat whatever the heck I can get my hands on, right? Like, because I'm gonna drive through Taco Bell because it's right here because I'm starving and it's quick. Versus if you start to think about it when you're kind of getting there, then you'll eat something maybe that is better for you overall. So, and then the goal is to eat until you're about at level 6. So you're satisfied, but maybe you could eat a little bit more, right? So maybe you're not feeling full, but like you're feeling good, okay, I ate my little meal, I'm ready to go, but I could definitely eat half a serving more or something along those lines. But when you're at 6, you'll probably get to 7 in the next 15 to 20 minutes. You'll probably be at level 7. Because like I said earlier, it takes about 20 minutes for you to realize okay, I'm actually full, for your brain and your gut to talk to each other. So you want to pay attention to these hunger cues to avoid that uncomfortable stuffed feeling, because then you're feeling crappy, you don't have energy, maybe you're falling asleep at your desk or whatever it is. So it's just really important to pay attention to these cues so that you aren't getting to that level, right? We're working on a relationship with food. Food's supposed to make us feel good, not make us feel bad about ourselves, make us feel like we did the wrong thing or we're in a battle with food. No, it's supposed to be make us feel good, positive. Keep nutritious snacks on hand to prevent going to level 1 or 2. So if you have a busy day, busy week, if you're going to be boom, 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 make a plan, have nutritious snacks with you. And I'll talk a little bit about some snack suggestions on the next slide, but it's all about being more intentional, right? And that's for a lot of things, but this is about food specifically. Okay, so some nutritious snack ideas, and you guys have probably heard a lot of these things before, but just a reminder, hummus and veggies, trail mix. A lot of trail mix can have a lot of added sugar, so just be careful whenever you're looking at the labels. 10 grams and lower is probably ideal for added sugar. I like to make my own because then I can control how much I'm adding, but I know it's busy life, all of that kind of thing, but there's all kinds of recipes online for making your own trail mix. I highly recommend doing that. Unsweetened yogurt with fruits, so again, you just kind of want to try and avoid all those added sugars, because you get kind of that whenever you're eating a snack with a lot of added sugar, you'll get that blood sugar spike, and then you'll feel like crap not that long after, right? Peanut butter and apples, edamame is always a good one, roasted chickpeas, energy bites. There's all kinds of recipes online for that kind of thing. If you want any suggestions or anything, email me. And then there's always granola bars, but again, just have to be careful with the added sugar with those. But definitely a better option than eating a bag of Fritos or something along those lines, right? So building your plate. So who has seen this before? Okay, cool. So building your plate. This is, the tried and true, golden standard, my plate, building your plate. So when you're feeling okay, I'm starting to get a little hungry, what's going to be my plan for lunch? You want to try and incorporate, all of these food groups into your meal. But again, I want to go back to, not being judgmental of yourself, right? Because this is definitely the standard, but it's likely not going to happen every single time you eat a meal, right? And that's okay. It's all about balance. It's all about having a positive relationship with yourself, with your food, and not being mean to yourself. Oh, dang, I didn't eat, the quarter of my plate wasn't protein, it's okay. Next time, you'll do it right? So aim for half of your plate to be fruits and vegetables. So, I always like to say, like, start with the fruits and vegetables whenever you do build your plate, right? Half of your plate, fruits and vegetables. So important. Quarter to be fiber-rich grains, and then a quarter to be protein. The more color, the more texture, the more variety, the better, right? So if you look at your plate whenever you're practicing mindful eating and it looks all beige, all one color, it's more ideal for it to be colorful. Yeah.
Is there a certain amount of protein, grams wise, per meal that you tell your clients to kind of aim for, like roughly?
Well, it's hard to say like blanket because, everybody's so different, activity levels, that kind of thing. But one serving size is technically 3 to 4 ounces, which is actually a lot smaller than most people consume. But yeah, really just like size wise, just like aim for it to be a quarter of your plate. 3 to 4 ounces is typically like the recommendation, but it varies like person to person very widely. And it depends on what kind of protein you're eating too. Okay, so I love this concept. It's kind of a recent thing that's come about, and I've been like totally on this train. Adding, not subtracting. So think about adding to meals, making them more nutritious instead of removing things. So, this diet culture, binge restrict kind of thing that we've been doing for a long time obviously hasn't really worked, right? Like 90% of people who diet tend to gain the weight back, and usually more. So think about adding to meals to make them more nutritious instead of removing. So you're eliminating that restrictive mindset. You're not thinking like, okay, I'm restricting myself. I'm adding more things to make it better for me. So like I said, alleviates the restrictive mindset. Add fiber to meals, adding greens, mushrooms, tomatoes to a burger, for example. Add a whole grain tortilla to a wrap. Add beans or chickpeas for more protein, things of that nature. Add more color or texture. Orange vegetables, that's a big one that we tend to miss out on. Greek yogurt or avocado. So, if you're having like a burrito bowl or something, add a Greek yogurt to it. Avocado on top of a salad, something along those lines. Adding more whole grains, adding quinoa to a salad or a soup, adding brown rice to a stir fry. Add more protein, salmon, shrimp, chicken, eggs, tofu, tempeh, cottage cheese, etc. Pizza takeout, order a salad as well. Such a dietitian thing to say, but and don't skip breakfast is another thing too. So it's eliminating that feeling of, oh, like I just shouldn't eat this, and I'm feeling like bad about myself and bad about my body, and I want to restrict calories and that kind of thing. But if you're adding things that are more nutritious, make you feel better, more nutritive value, then that's going to be more beneficial for you in the long run. Okay, so this is also something I really wanted to touch on in terms of mindful eating. So right now, this world we live in is like so crazy with like TikTok and Instagram and all that stuff. So I recently attended this webinar thing. I guess I shouldn't say attended, viewed a webinar about the nutrition. They called it infodemic. So we're constantly being exposed to misinformation via Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, etc. So people who are professionals or influencers are saying, eat this, no shade to sea moss, but like, eat this sea moss and it's gonna like solve all your problems, or like, buy this like $80, supplement or whatever, and it's gonna cause you, to lose 50 pounds in a week or something along those lines, this crazy stuff. So just be wary of the content that you're consuming, right? So according to a study done by MIT, false information travels roughly 6 times faster than accurate information, which that number just shocked me. 6 times faster. So if you see something on Instagram about nutrition or health related stuff, just remember that number, because misinformation travels a lot faster. which is really scary when you think about it. So not only may the information be false, but it also may be intended to make you feel poorly about yourself. So, if it's like some, beautiful like lady and she's like, oh yeah, I started eating, this or doing this or whatever, and it made me look like this, be careful, like let's, just because they look a certain way or whatever may not be that they necessarily know what they're talking about, or that they're promoting products that have been backed by science or, peer reviewed or like anything like that. So, I just really want to like emphasize that. And then ask yourself, does this information I'm consuming make me feel good or bad about myself? If you are on social media, and you see content that's making you feel like I should be doing that, or I should be working out 4 times a day, or just making you feel bad about yourself or your life choices, don't consume it. Follow people that make you feel good about yourself, real content, actual dietitians who are spreading actual information, which there's some dietitians out there that, dietitians are trusted individuals for the most part, but you still have to be kind of wary of what is being shared. And then also, like, does it make you feel bad about your body image is another one too. At-home diagnostic tests. So these are a big one right now. They're selling, these like food sensitivity tests, these like breath tests that you can take at home that like tell you if you have like IBS or something like that. These are not tested, sustainable or accurate, tests that are going to give you information that is actual medical diagnoses, right? These, tests that they can do, in a controlled environment, in a lab with trained and, controlled variables and things of that nature, those absolutely, but these at-home tests, just be very wary of those, and they can be very expensive. They could tell you information that may not be true. So just always talk to your healthcare provider before you decide to do like a, at-home like stool sample test to tell you if your gut health is healthy or, that kind of thing. It may just be a scam. If there's a claim that there's one thing that's a magical cure to make you healthy, fit, or thin, it's likely not true. So if they're, like I said earlier, if somebody's like, this one thing, is going to make you live forever and it's going to make you like, whatever, it's likely not true, right? There's so many other factors that go into health, that go into, who we are as individuals, that go into the choices that we make, our behaviors, things of that nature. So just, if there's one magic pill, it's probably not a magic pill. If it's too good to be true, it's likely not true, right? So always consult a healthcare professional that you trust before starting any new regimens. Okay, so I was asked to talk a little bit about on-campus dining and some options that we have on campus. We have We Bon Me, which is in the RMC. They do have like some gluten-free options, vegan, vegetarian options. It's a Vietnamese spot. We have a pizza place in the Loop. They don't have anything gluten-free there, but they do have vegetarian options there. Chef's Table, it's actually food that's made in West Servery, so they have a variety of entrees and sides. They normally have a plant-based entree, and there's allergen information posted. Local Foods is a great option. Vegan, vegetarian options, gluten-free options. Dandelion Cafe. I don't see as much vegan or vegetarian options there, but they do have gluten-free. Ambassador Cafe is more Chinese food. They have late night services. Moody Cafe, smaller menu, vegan, vegetarian option, less gluten-free. And then you have Cohen House Curbside, which is a really great option, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, healthy options, more variety. If you need more detail or questions or anything about that, just email dining@rice.edu for more information on any of that. Okay, so key takeaways from today's talk. So be kind to yourself, right? we are just constantly marketed to hate ourselves, right? Like, go get your hair done, go get Botox, go do this, go do that, go do this, you know, because they want us to spend money. They want us to hate ourselves. They want us to spend money so that we, you know, better ourselves, right? So, and then approach eating without judgment, right? So you're not judging yourself. Okay, today my plate's a little beige. That's okay. The other day I went to the rodeo and I forgot to eat before I went, and I was like so hungry. I ended up eating like an entire like basket of French fries, you know, and I was like, dang it. I was like, I'm doing a mindful eating seminar next week. I should have known not to do this, right? So be intentional about your meals and snacks. Be conscious of what you're consuming online. Use hunger satiety scale when you're working on your mind and body connection. So important to be in tune with that. It's been so severed. When we're children, you know, we have that connection, right? Kids know when they're hungry, when they're not hungry. Adults, we struggle a little bit more with that. Am I just eating because I feel obligated to? Am I just eating because I'm bored? It's hard to know that. Always eat breakfast. Always, 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 always eat breakfast. So important. Add color and variety to your meals. So, you know, just making sure variety and texture, and you're trying different things, and, you know, you're adding all of the colors. Don't fall for the magic pill or the fear mongering, right? So that, you know, this one thing is going to cause you to die at the age of 25 that you're eating. It's not the case, right? Don't fall for the magic pill. This one thing is going to make me, you know, so healthy, and is going to prevent me from getting colon cancer. It's likely not true, right? Accept yourself for who you are. And that's it. Does anyone have, and then here are my sites. Thank you. And here are what's the word I'm looking for? Sources that I used. And does anyone have any questions for me? Yeah.
I have two, if that's okay. One on the dining options. I know Housing and Dining actually just added a couple of farmers' fridge.
Oh yeah, I should have mentioned that.
They're super good and quick, which I'm not, I know that kind of goes against, but you know, but they're healthy.
Yeah.
So I think that's been a really cool one for me at least. And then I have a question on protein bars as a healthy snack. I know there's been some, I don't know if you're familiar with the EWG in terms of like the, like how they kind of go through all different kinds of things for chemicals and whatnot. And so they did a article on protein bars, and I know someone that's usually my, you know, easy healthy snack, but I struggle to find one that has kind of clean ingredients but still has an adequate amount of other, you know, kind of macro nutrients.
Tough.
Do you have a protein bar that you like, or do you work with people on?
I mean honestly, like, homemade is always like the best option. I know those are like hard like to make, but homemade is always the best option. I do recommend like RX bars, because you know you can like actually like read the ingredients and like know what's in it. Kind bars are pretty decent too. Sometimes they do have a lot of sugar in them. Like I don't do like the chocolate ones, like usually more of like the nut and like fruit kind of ones. But you know, if you're eating them like every single day, like I would maybe try and like switch up to like a different kind of, you know, like, you know, switch it up, not doing like the same thing on a regular basis. Like, but I don't know, like for me, you know, eating a granola bar is probably not like causing anyone like real issues, right? Like versus like everything else, like meals and drinks and, you know, alcohol consumption, and like, you know, to me that's just kind of like not as much of a priority. But I would definitely say like just look for things that don't have a lot of added sugar. Yeah, but yeah, RX bars are usually the ones I recommend. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on fasting? Intermittent
Fasting. Okay. This is okay. So
a whole other seminar.
yeah, whole other seminar on that. I think that there has been some success in managing like type 2 diabetes with it, but really at the end of the day, you're just eating less. I mean, that's just really kind of what it is. So if you're mindful about, kind of going back to this, if you're mindful about, your portion sizes, how much you're eating, how much you're snacking, how much, sugary drinks you're drinking, things of that nature, it's definitely not my first course of action. Like, you should fast. Because again, it goes back to kind of that restrictive mindset of feeling like I'm not able to eat even though I want to. And then you're severing that connection with your hunger cues, and then you're just kind of like out there in the wilderness trying to navigate eating, right? So the idea, us as dietitians, our goal is for you to find practices that are sustainable for your entire life, right? Not things that you're just going to do for a few months and then, throw it out the window and go back to, how things were before. And I think that's kind of what happens a lot of times with fasting. It's too hard, it's too restrictive. People don't have much energy, things of that nature. So, but, I wouldn't say like, it's not something that can't be used with the advice of like a healthcare professional. Yeah.
I have a couple different questions. So I know that, part of mindful eating, you were saying like that, like hunger scale, like listening to your body, being in tune. And I guess, is there, it is probably vary, there's no right answer, but like, is there, from a digestion perspective, range of hours between meals that would lead to like better digestion, just like what you should, like obviously there's like some societal norms of like 3 meals a day.
Yeah.
And there's all these different theories of like when those should be and how it should
I
be.
know.
And should you stack in between? And I know that there's like, really the answer is like whatever works for you as an individual, but I guess like from a dietitian perspective, is there a recommended timeline in terms of being able to digest a meal?
Yeah, so that's a great question, but it really all goes back to what you said. It depends on the individual. It depends on if you have any sort of comorbidities, or if you have IBS or GERD or anything like that. People with IBS, usually they're more successful eating more often throughout the day. Same with type 2 diabetes, eating smaller meals, things like that. It's varies so much from person to person that I couldn't really give you an hour, idea. But again, it's all about that mind and body connection and how you're feeling and really paying attention to that, because if I told you yes, eat every 6 hours, to me I'm not a super regimented I don't really do meal plans with students because I think it's too locked in. I've done it with patients who have diabetes and things like that who need to be a lot more strict. Mm-hmm. But if you it's all just so individual.
Yeah.
And it depends on if you have any additional things going on, so sorry, that's not
No, my other question is kind of, I feel like for a long time I avoided any kind of food information just because I didn't want to fall, it seems really easy to fall into restrictive and just an unhealthy mindset.
Yeah.
People are set up to be able to take
right.
to an unhealthy place, but I guess I've been trying to find the balance between using information to my own benefit and also trying to maintain a healthy mindset that has flexibility and an understanding
Yes.
that nothing's ever going to be perfect. But when I guess when it comes down to it and you're trying to balance multiple things, some of it might be medical. For me, I'm I think genetically my family has a higher cholesterol issue. Mm-hmm. And so it's if I'm hypothetically trying to lower my LDL, I also enjoy working out and building muscle mass. I do have a protein goal for each day. When you're trying to balance multiple things, I'm is a dietitian the person who would be able to help you create a general plan in that, to be able to say okay, here's 3 or 4 things that you're trying to accomplish. Here's what it should generally look like, even though there should be flexibility still.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you do currently have high cholesterol, sometimes your insurance will cover being able to see a dietitian. I mean, yeah, I mean, that is the person you want to go to for that, for sure. Yeah, versus, you know, like no shade to like fitness trainers or like anything like that, but you know, it's like I don't give out workout plans. Like, you know, it's kind of like one of those things where you have to see like multiple professionals for like, you know, kind of meeting your goals, right? So absolutely a dietitian would help you like navigate that for sure. Yeah, and high cholesterol is, you know, very common. Yeah.
How do we address or how do we balance the urge to order takeout versus eating homemade?
That's a great question. So, how do you balance eating out versus like eating at home? So, you know, it's really expensive, right? Like ordering food to go, ordering DoorDash. You know, you can think about it from like a cost perspective, like, okay, I have this goal, like I'm gonna save money for this thing that I have coming up, right? With my clients or my patients, I always try and find what is it that motivates them, right? Is your motivation like, oh, I, you know, want to lower my cholesterol, or is your motivation like, I want to be able to run faster, you know, at the gym or whatever it is? Focus on that motivation and figure out how it is that you're going to achieve that, right? So, you know, and if ordering, you know, Sweet Green, or which is probably not the kind of DoorDash you're referring to, but you know, if you're ordering, you know, meals that are meeting that goal, then sure, absolutely. But it's really, you know, thinking about making those intentional choices about what you're eating and thinking about what you're going to eat before you're like super hungry and I need it here now. And if you're really stressed, especially, a lot of times whenever we're stressed or we're anxious or that kind of thing, we tend to gravitate more toward like fried foods, fatty foods, foods with a lot of added sugar. So I would also look at like how you're managing your stress too, and if you have like any sort of like creative outlets or, you know, things like that. I know this is kind of like a long-winded answer, but there's not like one answer, right, for that. But I would definitely, you know, just make more intentional choices. And then if you are eating out, maybe finding things that are, you know, meeting those goals. If you're like, okay, I'm not going to cook at home, or, you know, there's those like meal kit services, you know, making like kind of maybe like a date night or something out of it where you're like cooking together, or like making it more fun too, you know, finding new recipes that you want to explore. You know, if there's a specific dish at the restaurant that you really like, okay, I'm going to try to make it at home and I'm going to perfect it, right? And I'm going to bring all my friends over and they're going to rate me like 1 out of 10, like how well I did or whatever, you know, just making it more of like an interactive like experience, because trust me, I know like the monotony of like cooking at home can kind of get kind of like old, and it's more exciting when you order food out and like, you know, you're trying all these different things, but try and bring that like into the home, you know?
Kind of piggyback off of that, and just like balance, I think, and being intentional. One thing I try to focus on, like you said, not having judgment. Like if I didn't pack a lunch today and I do have to eat at a dining option, like, okay, I'm eating out for lunch, dinner, I know, like, let's be intentional about cooking something healthy or balanced, you know, for dinner. Just having that balance. Okay, if I'm eating out for one meal, let's be intentional, not eating out for the entire day. Same with breakfast as well. Just grabbing, you know, an apple or like you said, granola, you know, before I get out the door, so I'm not like looking for, you know, maybe we had, you know, like breakfast when I got to work, and that sounds amazing because I didn't get breakfast this morning, but was it the healthiest option that, you know, we provided in the office today? Probably not, you know, we have pastries and donuts and things like that to celebrate. So like, okay, if you already had, you know, your apple, granola, or whatever, you know, on the way, or smoothie on the way to work, you're more likely to be full, where you're not grabbing, you know, these unhealthy things that you may have in the office. You're more tempted to eat when you're in the workplace. And this, like, also what he, kind of what the question is, using, being intentional, using eating out as a reward, not being restricted and saying you can't do it at all. But okay, if I really did good about packing my lunch and eating dinner at home, and, you know, I created great, delicious meals that I enjoy and I'm proud of, I don't have any more food maybe because I ate it all, you know, I ate all my groceries up for the week. So, okay, I can go out on the weekend and I can enjoy, you know, a good meal with people and friends, and it can still be that, you know, enjoyment and, you know, that social life of not having to restrict myself of being around delicious food, but I know I've done good, you know, every other day of the week where I can still reward myself, but also know that I've been balanced, so I'm not just continuing the cycle of eating out every single day. So that's kind of the stuff.
But as far as like controlling the urge, like I'm not gonna like tell you to get like a shock collar or something, you know what I mean? Like
do it, you have to, yeah.
you know, so there's not really like, I don't know about controlling the urge, but just being more mindful. Back to mindfulness. But anything else, comments, questions? No? Okay, well, my business card's over there. Let me know if you guys, well actually I should just have my contact information up here. Send me an email if you have any questions or anything. Happy to chat. Thank you guys so much for coming.